Holy Toledo. Hey, welcome everybody. Backyard Professor Live Sunday night. It's going to be an interesting night tonight. I'm going to try to show you my library, and this will be let's hear. Yeah. Hi Tim, how are you? Good to see you. So, tonight I don't have any particular subject that I was going to cover except my entire library, which is probably going to be very interesting. I have multiple new subscribers, hundreds of new subscribers. I got to tighten that handle on my desk drawer. This last month, a lot of it is because of my shorts and my chess, and a few of them on Mormonism as well. And so I've had several people ask me about the books behind me. Now, the problem is I'm going to have to bring my computer camera with me to show the books. And I will point to them and name them and talk about them a little bit, sections and specific books. And it dawned on me I can't hook up my Blue Yeti microphone and move my computer all around with me. So I'm going to try to talk soft, because when I get really excited and I start yelling and shouting and all that, this stupid inbuilt mic really messes up. So, all right. Good to see all of you. Mo see ya. Yeah, the BYP library. And Borlord. Yay, book. I got my drink ready. Yeah. Borlord's been joining me on my lives in the mornings on chess. And I will make the announcement a couple of times here in the video. While we're live, for those of you who are interested, I am doing chess lives also. Tomorrow's President's Day, and I get a paid day off. So I am going to do another chess live in the morning if you're interested in chess. So I will be doing that at, I think I'm going to go 9 o'clock. Start at 9. This morning I went for like 2.5 hours. I had so much fun looking at some chess stuff. We had a hoot, didn't we, Borlord? Yes, that was very fun to do. So I'll do it again in the morning. But tonight we're going to find out that I really, in a way, Hugh Nibley, The Day of the Amateur, his article years ago in the Improvement Era, completely ruined my career, because I decided to be good at a little bit of everything and master of none. And so I never went and got a master's or a PhD. I just kind of dabbled into a lot of subjects, a lot of stuff. And I'm more or less what you would call an armchair wannabe. But I am mildly well-read, as some of you may know. And I even have a Webster's 21st Century Book of Quotations. Well, I'm telling you, it doesn't get better than this. For instance, on kindness, let me read one of my book of quotations. I've actually used this book for a couple of my shorts. Forget injuries, never forget kindness. Hey, I like that. That's good. You can get more with a kind word and a gun than you can get with a kind word alone. According to Rachel Carson. Yeah, you can just see that, can't you? So anyway, yeah, I've got all kinds of quotation books and etymology books and dictionaries of all sorts in this library of mine. So let me show you immediately. I've got my desk situated in front. This is kind of at an angle, and my chessboard is actually off behind me. This bookshelf is directly behind me. And this light, look at that light. Oh, for the Pete's sake. Hey, aloha, T.O. Good to see you, my friend. Hope things are well for you. This light's in the way. I don't even know if it's worth trying to get up there to see the books. I don't know. Hey, let's try something funky. I'm the Backyard Professor. I can get away with stupid crap like this. Nobody else does this stupid noise. Everybody quit watching them. Me, they say you're such a nut job that you can get away with this. Those end books there are all about the first century and Judaism, that purple book, and Hellenism. Those are some of my mix of the Jews in the Greek world. There's some real good scholarly text there. And then, of course, after that, you've got the Asimov science biographical and Asimov on science. And I've kept some of my Asimov on physics and the roving mind and several of his more popularizer books. And then down this way are some of my mathematics books, algebra problems, calculus, geometry, trigonometry, all of that kind of noise. I'm an armchair mathematician of sorts. I do want to pull out a couple of these books, though. Now, the thing about these books here is they're probably, quite frankly, dated. I've gotten more of the, I try to get the scholarly materials as I can. The study of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the era of the Dead Sea Scrolls and post Alexander the Great Judaism called Hellenism has always fascinated me, most especially since I quit being an apologist. But Heritage and Hellenism by Eric Gruen, a really good book. This is the formation of the Jewish tradition. This is really, or the reinvention. Quite a text. Lots to think about in that. And then, of course, the classic Martin Hengel, Judaism and Hellenism. I got the 2-volume in one edition, where the first volume is his texts, and the second volume, starting from here, literally half the book, this half of the book, is his notes. And they're just hundreds of pages of notes and index. That is a sumptuous text. And then Doron Mendel, The Rise and Fall of Jewish Nationalism, the Jewish and Christian ethnicity in ancient Palestine. Now, this was an eye-opener. I was plenty stunned with the concept of how the Jews invented their own nationalistic literatures in order to coalesce together. And I'm simplifying, I promise. I'm really simplifying, but the essence of their the apocryphal and the pseudepigraphic materials that the Jews invented, the books of Enoch, Maccabees, etc., to give themselves a national identity, because after Alexander conquered the world, and then he died young. He was just a pipsqueak squirt. He was just out of his teenage years almost. Then it split up, the world split up into 3 areas. And of course, the Jews were never free, just briefly for a few years. And they've always been under someone else in the ancient world. And then Michael Grant, good historian, just solid, rock solid. Very amazing. He's written dozens and dozens of history books. I own a few of them, but the Jews in the Roman world. Fun, good overview. Doesn't go into too much depth, but he gives you a broad perspective that is really quite good. Anathea E. Portier Young, John J. Collins wrote the foreword to this one, The Apocalypse Against Empire, Theologies of Resistance in Early Judaism. So that's kind of that's some of the fun stuff that's in the era just immediately, say, the 2 centuries before Jesus's day. And of course, when I got into the historical Jesus studies, which is one of my favorite studies, I had to study the context of the Jewish world. And so that was the idea behind those books. A lot of fun stuff. And then Isaac Asimov was one of the, he's well known for science fiction. And I tried to get into it and I just couldn't. I mean, call me an idiot, but I really liked his nonfiction, his science writing. So I purchased, he wrote a monthly column and then they collected those into books. And that's how he wrote over 400 books in his lifetime. Very prolific author. And I got all of, I've kept numerous. Oh, and then I've got the real good scholarly crap here, baby. Zechariah Sitchin. Woohoo! Who hasn't read him, right? 12th Planet and all that. Scholarship says he is really way off the mark in his stuff. But you know, you got to read it and have some fun. And yeah, when time began, Sitchin, more of Sitchin. Yeah, good crap right there, people. I had about 100 of Isaac Asimov's books at one point, and then I started trading a lot of them off. A lot of them had repeat articles in them and all, and he was just into everything. My favorites that I kept was Asimov on Numbers. This is the book that convinced me that I really wanted to study mathematics. This was a fun book. I am just so not kidding. His insights and ideas and the way of twiddling with math was spectacular. And then Science, Numbers, and Asimov, that was fun. And then Asimov on astronomy. I became an armchair astronomer. This was quite fun, full of speculation, but based on science. Asimov on physics was really quite good at one time. Because of Asimov, I went and studied health physics, actually, radiation and all that. The Relativity of Wrong was a really wonderful little book. Fact and Fancy was also fun. There's some good essays in that one. X stands for unknown. There's some real good essays in that one, if you like science. Oh, and this is Martin Gardner. I never did bother to upgrade with the second edition of Martin Gardner on the Ambidextrous Universe. I hear he about doubled the size of this. I know where I can get a copy of it, but I've never bothered to get the upgrade. But Martin Gardner was spectacular, and he was very, very prolific on the mathematics scenes. And then Isaac Asimov, Far as Human Eye Could See. So that's basically, and then I've got a few hardcover books of his science essays and all of it. I always bought the Popularizer stuff once a month, and he kicked it out once a month every month because I just wanted to kind of see what was happening in the world of science. And from a Popularizer point of view, Asimov was the real McCoy. So now another book that I found really good. I got this when I'm going to date myself. I'm going to age myself, man. Hey, John Mutch, Newton Lemos, good to see you. Mark Crispin, yeah, baby. John Mutch, good to see you, buddy. Tim's here. Mormon News Roundup, Songs of Our Own. All of you are here. Okay, good to see y'all. This particular book I actually got when I was at Rick's College. I got this for my intellectual heritage class. I have tried like crazy. Brother Romney. We never called him professor at Rick's. It was a Mormon college. We called him brother and sister. The professors. Can you believe that? Hey, brother. Yeah, crazy. How Real is Real? Paul Waslowick. Now, there is a book to make you think. I'm actually seriously going to reread this, and I will do some philosophy videos out of this thing. It was sensational. That Escher print, no joke. The hand drawing the hand, drawing the hand, drawing the hand, the recursive, the infinite recursive. There's some good information in that. That was a fabulous book. Oh, and then I've got this book out of place. I've been trying to straighten out my library. Hi. This is the poetry of W.B. Yeats, a thin little book. I've got Yeats, A Vision. So when I get over there to the literature section here in about an hour and a half or so, I will have put you all to sleep by then, and I'll share with you some of the literature that I find interesting. And I cannot find my James Joyce materials. That really torques my britches. I'm a mild James Joyce fan. That's a lot of good stuff. I was the same way, John. Asimov's fiction didn't do a lot for it. I read through a few of his books, but the science stuff was fun. It was quite interesting. Now, and then I got into stuff like this. I'll bring down and that belongs right here. That's one of my books on infinity. Oh, and so is that one. Lost Words of the English Language. These kind of books, just silly, fun little stuff. Rescued from oblivion out of the old dictionaries, and one of my favorites that I do use in my videos. No kidding, man. And some of these words are really just awesome. but argy-bargy. I love that word. When I read that word, argy-bargy, it's an argument or a dispute or a lively discussion. So that's what we're having tonight. This is the BYP argy-bargy hour. But yeah, there's all kinds of fun little, a colothump. Do you know what a colothump is? It's a noisy, boisterous parade. What a colothump. So on the 4th of July, we go watch the colothump, or else we stay home and watch it on TV, right? And then a dacoit. Do you know what a dacoit is? It's a bandit from the Indian subcontinent. Isn't that fascinating? Anyway, words, language, stuff to do with language. Always fun for me. Moyer Hunsberg, the quintessential dictionary. I use this when I was doing a lot of writing. I was constantly looking up words in this book. This is a wonderful reference book. And the Insomniac's Dictionary, the last word on the odd word. Thousands of wild, weird, wonderful words by Paul Helleweg. Books like this are just fun. And you can buy, you keep your eyes peeled in the used bookstores, and you can buy them for pennies on the dollar. They're cheap and easy and fun to browse through when you're bored of the serious stuff. You can go through this stuff. Now, and this one, these, let me show you this real quick. Here we go, doing the BYP thing. I apologize in advance for the inconvenience that I might cause, but tough luck, get over it. These are some of the books that my wonderful daughter convinced me to get so that I could help write my own fantasy novel. And I've got Mormon Country by Stegner. Why the King James Version? James Reuben Clark. Some of you Mormons will recognize that. I got the hardcover, man. And then the Apocalyptic Book of Isaiah by Gileadi. Check this out. Lynn Hilton, the Kolob Theorem. You ever read the book reviews on that? I mean, he got slaughtered. That is the most ridiculous, silly, non-scientific science junk I've ever read. And then Orson Pratt's writing of an apostle is good. How Wide the Divide by Blomberg and Robinson, a good discussion between the Mormon and the evangelical. And then McMurrin, The Theological Foundations of the Mormon Religion. And if I can separate all the junk from here, if I turn the slide on, you won't see it. These are all the Journal of Book of Mormon studies from the farms. Here, some of them. And then the Pearl Great Price, Revelations from God. Some of the Religious Studies Center materials. And then books like this used to really turn me on. Expressions of Faith. Now, this is a Christian book, After Jesus, Before Christianity. That was kind of, it was okay. And then Northrop Frye, oh my gosh, The Great Code and Words with Power. His biblical studies, Northrop Frye, he has not gotten outdated at all. He is some good stuff, I'm telling you. I'm just saying. Let me see if I can keep this on the kilter, on the level. I have no idea if you can see this stuff or not. If you can't, tough luck. Here's The Rise and Fall of BYU by B.H. Roberts. Rediscovering the Book of Mormon. This is a farms book. To be learned is good. I bought that book for a dime. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought it by Millet. I bought that so I could destroy it because it's so ridiculous. Why God Won't Go Away, Brain Science and the Biology of Belief. And then here's some of John Twetness's book, The Most Correct Book, The Book of Mormon and Other Hidden Books. And then I've got Kendall White Jr., Mormon Orthodoxy, A Crisis Theology. Lou Midgley hated this book, but Lou Midgley hates anything that disagrees with him. And then Joseph Smith is a Scientist. Now, this is John A. Witzel. I went to some extent to find this book. That was a tough one to get. Joseph Smith is a Scientist by Witzel. And then Witzel, Rational Theology. And I did a video review of this one. I might redo this. And this one's out of place too. Yeah, this is New Testament Essays. Raymond Brown, the great Catholic scholar, New Testament Essays. That's fun for filling in the gaps in the New Testament. And then this is Raphael Patai, The Children of Noah, about the Jewish seafarers of antiquity. This one's by Nichols, Prostitution, Polygamy, and Power. Hey, there's the 70s course in theology by our man, B.H. Roberts. That's good stuff. And then this is Evidences, Reconciliations, and stuff by Witzel. And then Science and Your Faith in God. Boy, what a hoot. What they used to think was science and faith in God has certainly changed these days. That is dated. And then here's another study on the Jews, Disinheriting the Jews. This is more of a scholarly book that belongs up there, but it's okay. It's all good. Hey, I can rest that right on the bookshelf. Disinheriting the Jews and Against the Grain. Now this is the one by Madsen, not Truman Madsen, the other Madsen, the good Madsen. Oh, and then here's my crow, The Extraterrestrial Life Debate, 1750 to 1900. The Idea of Plurality of Worlds from Kant to Lowell. That is a very important book. That's out of Cambridge University Press right there. That's good stuff. And then Richard Lloyd Anderson's Understanding Paul, some of the New Testament stuff. This is Hall's Doctrine and Practice in the Early Church. That's early Christianity stuff. And then you got A Reason for Faith and More Wives Than One on Polygamy. Book of Mormon Authorship Revisited, an imperfect book by Wonderly. That one really will get you thinking about the Book of Mormon being such a great book. It's not really. And then here's Albert C. Tanner, One Man's Journey in Search of Freedom. This is Mike Ash. He's a popularizer. I used to work with him in FAIR, of Faith and Reason. And then, of course, the moment one of the general authorities says something cute and quippy, Doubt Your Doubts, Mormons jumped all over it and began writing books called that, Doubt Your Doubt. And I did a review of this. This is Chad Conrad. He wrote that to get popular and famous. And it's mostly just fluff, pap, and pablum. This is Terrell Givens, The God Who Weeps. And this is book by the Hand of Mormon. I've got some of his other books down here elsewhere. I've got quite a few of his stuff. Givens is a sophisticated, well, yeah, here it is, Wrestling with the Angel. That's a new one of his. And then he's got another one. Oh, where did I put it? Yeah, Feeding the Flock right here. Feeding the Flock. You can't see it because my camera's tilted the wrong way. Feeding the Flock by Givens. The Crucible of Doubt. I was very unimpressed with that one. Not impressed at all with it. So anyway, this is basically, and then the big one. Oh, Steve Acosta. Yeah, well, I love your guts too, man. Thank you. That's very kind. I do appreciate the support. I love you, brother. You are a good man. This is, I got to show you this. This is just historical nostalgic for me. Studies in Scripture. Remember when they were doing this series in the church at BYU? No kidding. Hey, Don Smith. Good to see you. This Pearl of Great Price. This is one of the real seriously main first books that I read that convinced me I wanted to be an apologist and I wanted to learn everything about the Book of Abraham. No joke. Yeah, 1985 in Randall book. Hard to get now, but yeah, I kept my old copy because, of course, as is my wont to do, I make all my notes in the front. I make my own index so that I can find stuff that interests me rather than the stupid index that the publishers produce, which is next to useless for the most part. So yeah, I kept that for nostalgic purposes. Fun stuff. And then this one, Lamar Peterson, man, this is the one, Hearts Made Glad, Joseph Smith and beer drinking. Don't kid yourself. He did plenty of it. He was an imbiber. This guy got kicked out of the church for telling the truth of Joseph Smith. Him and Porter Rockwell and Brigham Young. One of the first things Brigham Young did when he got to the Utah Valley was let Porter Rockwell build a bar in Salt Lake City. You do know that early Salt Lake City had houses of prostitution that helped keep the ladies employed and keep them in money so that they could get the economy building up, don't you? I've got books on it. I think one of my polygamy books is up here. I've got books on that. This is one, Mormon Polygamy, a History. Van Wagenen, absolutely superb. That's one you really need to look at in detail. But this one, Prostitution, Polygamy, and Power. I'm not kidding. Salt Lake City from 1847 to 1918. Jeffrey Nichols. Look that up if you think I'm just trying to make up an anti-Mormon story. They had prostitution as a business, and the ladies got so rich that they were given power in the city. I mean, like a governoress and city council stuff and all that jazz. No kidding, man. This is the stuff you don't hear in Sunday school. It's not going to happen because they don't want you to know what actually happened. Oh, Steve, yes. Oh, well, thank you. I will do that too. Yeah, Dr. Shades is writing Lou Midgley's biography. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun to look into. So anyway, and then, and here's another one of Gibbon's, When Souls Had Wings. I don't know what I did with the cover. This is about the parallelism between the early Christian and the medieval ages of the premortal existence of souls, and why he thinks that shows the proper restoration of a true doctrine. It's all about parallelism. And then, of course, one of the most important books I own in Mormonana is the Leonard Arrington and the Writing of Mormon History. And this is the biography by Greg Prince. Now, I had Arrington's book written by himself, the Faith of a Historian or something like that. And I traded it off. I read it. I was shocked. I had it for a couple of years, and I traded it off, and I'll show you the books that I had to get because they were like $900 for a set of 4 of them. Some of the greatest reference materials in biblical Hebrew in existence. And I traded now you go to buy it and the dumb thing's $150. So, you got to live and learn. Way to go, idiot. I should have hung on to that one. And then this is Zeme, American Crucifixion. Oh, whoops, got it upside down. All about the martyrdom of Joseph Smith. We love to make a big whoop-de-doo about it. I mean, come on, it was a significant event in the life in American history. It really was. And then Truman Madsen. Now, this is one of the funner books because Eternal Man. Now, when I read this, I shared this with some of the philosophers / scholars when I was attending Rick's College back in the early 1980s, just after my mission, right? And they didn't believe it. They said, no, Truman Madsen doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, he went on to become a very, very prominent Mormon philosopher, but he didn't do a lot of philosophy. He more or less just basically, he became an apologist for Joseph Smith is what he was doing. And then Brent Metcalf, absolutely got to have Brent Metcalf, editor, New Approaches to the Book of Mormon. Critical Methodology, Exploring Critical Methodology. Brent Metcalf, the headache, pain in the ass to the Farms boys, the Foundation for Ancient Research and Mormon Studies. He tried to keep them on the truthful, straight, and narrow, and they kept deviating into all kinds of idiotic, lunatic apologetics like horses or tapirs and so on and so forth. And the chariots were not meant to be ridden in. And I mean, all kinds of ridiculously stupid, dumb thinking by the Farms boys. Metcalf and others, Dan Vogel and so on and so forth, tried to keep them on the straight and narrow, and they couldn't do it. So, you bless your heart, Newton Lemos. Thank you, my man. You are awesome. I don't know yet how to give super stickers to people who contribute and donate. So I apologize, but I'm trying to call out your name and say thank you. You're awesome. You're wonderful and all that. So now this one. Look, this is the subject that just unnerved me as an apologist. Terrified me. I'll admit it. I did not want to touch it with the 10-foot pole. I didn't want to touch this with a 100-foot pole. Polygamy. Because it seems to me like I'd talked to someone in the early days of my apologetics, and they warned me away from polygamy. They said, don't study polygamy. You're not in depth enough. It's a subject that'll destroy your testimony. I said, well, in that case, I'll jump on the Book of Abraham. Can you say irony loud enough? No, don't study polygamy. Study the Book of Abraham. Now it's the Book of Abraham that undid me, but polygamy is the second nail in the coffin. And Todd Compton, In Sacred Loneliness. Now, the Farms reviews, plural, of this are really not nice. They I mean, long story short, they misunderstood what Compton was doing. Compton actually ended up regretting writing this book, if I remember correctly. I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong, but he said, yeah, I really shouldn't have wrote that book and presented it because the Mormons weren't ready for it. So now this book here, this is fun, The Worlds of Joseph Smith. This is the Bicentennial Conference. Mormon and non-Mormon scholar alike contributed to this thing, and they were either praising or critically assessing Joseph Smith. And I bought this as an apologist and ranted and raved about it in a video. And now I'm ranting and raving about it in other videos on the other side. So I see more of the apologetic nature rather than the scholarly nature of this than I did when I was an apologist, right? William McClellan Papers. Come on. This stuff is spectacular. This terrified the brethren. This terrified the church. They did not want William McClellan's papers to come out. Now, why not? Why not? What's wrong with William McClellan? He was one of the early stalwarts of Joseph Smith, but he didn't last. And so we can't let an apostate's writings persuade us, brethren. Well, when they found out, now this is the edition by Stam Larson and Samuel J. Passy from Signature Books. Farms found out they were doing it, and Jack Welch and others from Farms immediately got together and they made their own edition of the William McClellan Papers. And I have that. It's probably up there with my Nibley collection. I've got it. Anyway, I've got both editions. Fun to compare and cross-reference and check. And my favorite scholar on the Book of Abraham, Dan Vogel, Book of Abraham Apologetics, a review and critique. This book completely transformed. This book clarified it for me. If you need to, yes, I would love to, Newton. I'm trying to, I promise. So, yeah, Elaine Pagel's on the origin of Satan. Derek Lambert, Myth Vision, has a wonderful interview of her. I've got her book. I'll show you that. Yeah, I've got most of her books, too. She's a terrific author. Wonderful woman. And then, of course, Vogel's fantastic new book, Charisma. You got to read that, too. I know it. Yeah, trust me, you all are now going to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars like I did after I show you my library tonight. But you guys asked for it, so here you go. Woohoo! Just, pull your credit card out, you pansies. Oh, no, don't do that. Dave Ramsey will kick your butts. The LDS Gospel Topics series, Mormonish and I have been going through the essays, the historical essays the church finally came out to finally tell the total truth and be full of openness and love and light, and they still couldn't do it. And they tried to make it impossible to find on their page, their official website page, but they are up. These are essays about the essays that we've been covering. We've got a few left. Now, you can't overlook Devery Anderson, and you're going to hate me for showing you this. I couldn't even afford to buy this entire series. That's how expensive they are. But the amount of work this fabulous gentleman has done, I knew him when I was on Facebook. Good man. Devery Anderson, The Development of LDS Temple Worship, 1846 to 2000, a documentary history. Absolutely pristine primary documents and research. Phenomenal. It's a huge book. Yeah, 500 pages. Just absolutely knocked it out. Good stuff. Only $90. Come on, shut up and fork out the money. Rough Stone Rolling, Richard Lyman Bushman. And you can see I have made the index, my own index, and writing all over it. And I have turned pages down. And I have written all over in the pages, and I have underlined, and I have marked, and I have cross-checked, and I have all kinds of dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of tabs marking important points in the book. I have color-coded materials. This is an important book, is what I'm trying to tell you. And now, here we go. Hey, Randy Jordan, I just saw you pop in. Welcome, my dear friend. Randy Jordan and I used to be on the same debating team. I was debating as an apologist. He was debating for the truth. And that son of a gun won. Woohoo! Boy, we went the rounds for years, didn't we, Randy? Those were fun days back on Alt Religion Mormon, where we met. This book is a relatively new in BYU Church History Symposium, Approaching Antiquity, Joseph Smith in the Ancient World. I loved how I could read the Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim bayet haaretz yehi tohu vavohu. This is the first verse in Genesis in the Hebrew right on the cover. And I thought, yeah, baby, I love it. So this one is really good on two fronts. The scholarship on it is really pretty significant and good. Now, these are, I hate to say it this way, you guys, because technically that's not true. But I mean, the brethren want the scholars to be a certain way when they write. The scholars want to be scholars when they write, and there's some conflict, right? So you get a little bit of both in this one. But overall, it's a splendiferous book. I liked it, truly. Seriously good stuff. I will put that over there for the moment. And then, no kidding, by his own hand upon papyrus. Now, I know about John Gee's review because I talked with him about it, and I read it several times in the Farms Review books of the Book of Mormon. And he didn't like this book. I didn't like this book because he didn't like this book. Once I lost faith in the Book of Abraham, I went back through this book, and I'm here to tell you something. John Gee is full of el cocorito. He is full of no good because this is really well done. I am not kidding. John Gee nitpicked spelling errors compared to what he ignored in this book. So, and besides, you can get it for free. You can't now because Sandra Tanner retired, but you used to be able to. And then, ta-da! Vaughn Brody, No Man Knows My History. Hugh Nibley reviewed this, didn't like it, but Leonard Arrington said, as far as the history goes, it's one of the best there is. Now, what the heck? You see, the Mormon historians and scholars do not see eye to eye either. Now, whose judgment are you going to trust, Hugh Nibley or Leonard Arrington? They're both pretty stellar stalwarts within the Mormon theological community, right? So this one, Van Wagner. Now, my dear friend, I can't remember what handle he goes by. We talk on the phone periodically. He convinced me to start studying Sidney Rigdon and this book, A Portrait of Religious Excess. Richard S. Van Wagner. Now, that man is incredible. You want to read him. He is the gentleman that also wrote, where did it go? I just had it here, right here. Richard Van Wagner, Mormon Polygamy, A History. This book shook me to my roots. This book terrified me. I was blown away at how fundamentally dishonest the church I believed in as an apologist was on this issue. It was horrifying. Absolutely depressing. And then it went from bad to horrifyingly worse when I read this book, Nauvoo Polygamy, but we called it Celestial Marriage by George D. Smith. This one will turn you white with rage. And it's huge. It's gigantic. 700 pages. Very tight, careful, dense, analyzed book of the systematic way Joseph Smith went about manipulating people so that he could get their young daughters and wives by sending the men off missions and proposing other such things, send the men off exploring new lands, find the Jackson Temple area and all that, but let me hang on to your daughter. And then when they came back, he was already married to them. This book will piss you off. This book will make you want to take up arms. But it's part of the history. I'm just saying. So, hey, Doug Vincent, good to see you, my buddy. And now Dialogue, a Journal of Mormon Thought. I've got these scattered throughout my library. I do not have the full collection. I probably ought to. This is good stuff. I justified myself. Now, see, I was raised in the era. Hang on. I was raised in the era that the Mormons should not be contributing to Dialogue and Sunstone and all that. You know, Boyd K. Peckerhead had his head up his ass so far he couldn't see crooked, let alone straight. He was so self-righteously contaminated with his own indignant self of justice and righteousness, which was way the heck off in far right fields, so far off he couldn't see straight from narrow. He put the church back 50 years. They deserve it. They still haven't recovered. They're trying to, but it's a long slog thanks to putting that dingling in power. And so I kind of feared and worked in trepidation. Then I did research on Hugh Nibley's materials, and I found he published a lot of stuff in Dialogue. And I said, if it's good enough for Hugh Nibley, it's good enough for me. And so that's when I began reading Dialogue. So see, good things did happen because I studied Hugh Nibley. All right, there you go, right? Now this series here, holy shish kebab. I don't know if I have the complete collection, but I've got enough to know that this is one of the gems in my library. Line upon line. Now this is the Essays on Mormon Doctrine. Line upon line, Gary James Bergera. Memorize that name. Anything that man writes is pure gold. Essays on Writing Mormon History. Faithful History, edited by George D. Smith. Phenomenal. This is the Essays on the Book of Mormon, American Apocrypha by our gentlemen Dan Vogel and Brent Lee Metcalf. This is the Essays on Science and Mormonism, The Search for Harmony, essays by Craig J. Oberg. This one is absolutely sensational. This will show you the ding-a-lingness of literalist thinking of Joseph Fielding Smith, Boyd K. I don't have a clue Packer, and many other fundamentalist thinkers in Mormonism that has set them back into the caveman days, and they still can't recover from it. They don't know diddly spit of accuracy about science, and they claim they have the world's greatest heart surgeon in there as the prophet, and he's getting revelations from some kind of a deity using his pen light late at night because he thinks something and he goes, oh hey, Jesus is talking to me. These are interpretive essays on Joseph Smith, the Prophet Puzzle by Brian Waterman. If none of them are available to you and you can only get this one, this is really a fun read. For real. I mean, anybody who was anybody back then is in this one, man. Waterman did a sensational job in this book. Thomas G. Alexander, Jan Ships, Dan Vogel. We've never heard of him, but he's in here. Richard Bushman, Richard Van Wagner, and Stephen C. Walker. Newell G. Bringhurst, Alan Taylor, Lance S. Owens, Eugene England, Lawrence Foster. I mean, every one of these guys are just huge in the Mormon scene. Robert D. Anderson, Gary James Bergera, Ronald V. Huggins, Susan Staker, Carl C. Sandberg. Fantastic collection of essays. Well worth it. And then this one. And this one was a mother to me as an apologist. This one shook me. This one, I really had to do some research. Dan Vogel, the man, The Word of God, Essays on Mormon Scripture. And I'm telling you what, this stupid book, this stupid, wonderful book, this kept me up late at night. Man, this kept me up all nights. Richard P. Howard, Jeff Spencer, Anthony Hutchinson, William D. Russell, A. Bruce Lindgren, Mark D. Thomas, Susan Curtis, talking about the influences of the 19th century, the translation of the Book of Mormon, George D. Smith, Isaiah Updated, Melody Monick Charles, the Mormon Christianizing of the Old Testament, Kevin Barney, Lester Bush, Dan Vogel and Brent Lee Metcalf, Ed Ashmont, I mean, what a lineup. I never, as an apologist, by the way, could refute what Ed Ashman wrote on the Book of Abraham in this one. So I kind of gently tiptoe through the tulips. I ignored him. Now, that's what you do as an apologist, right? Yeah, baby. And then I've got Arrington, the Mormon Experience. I've got the coffin texts, the Egyptian coffin texts, and the Farms book, Glimpses of Lehi's Jerusalem by John Welch and all, where they're trying to give historic and archaeological context to 600 BC because they don't have much. So that's that shelf. Now, see, look, I've already gone through 4 shelves and I've been blathering nonstop as fast as I know how for 45 minutes. We're going to be here till flipping midnight, man. Ken Brown, how you doing? Please give me a short definition of apologetics. Yes, bullshitters for religion. You're welcome. Now, this part of the bookshelf here is a really significant one for me. Let's see if I've got this pointed right. Nope, I've got to get this lower. This bookshelf here, that book's upside down. That's Stephen Jay Gould. This is all of my evolution and creation science shelf. Now, I've got to confess, I used to have 5 times this much. I used to have enough evolution literature that it would have covered this entire bookshelf. But in the process of wading in shoulder deep books with only walking room only, I had to give way and let some of it go. So you got to pack up and run fast for the hills. Which favorite books do you stuff into your backpack to take with you? T.O., I have pondered that question for decades. And quite frankly, I don't know. That is a great question. Fantastic question. At this point, yeah, let me think about it while I show you my library. That'd take a whole night to, I don't know, but what I ought to do is put together a to-go bag of those books, right? Yeah, great question, Tio. Yeah. In 5 words or less, describe apologists: brainwashed determiners for falsehood. Brainwashed determiners for falsehood. 4 words. Woohoo! Now, and this section here, I'm going to have to put this down on the floor. This is one of my very favorite sections. This next section of my library I'm going to show you is without question the most profound, broad, deep part of my library as far as intellect, mathematics, philosophy, physics, reality, astronomy goes. It is one of my favorite subjects, and I can't grasp it. I don't know diddly spit about it, and yet I have a very serious desire to brush up on this subject so that I can begin making philosophy videos of this. And it is the subject of infinity. And through the years, I have gathered dozens of books. I have photocopied all kinds of articles from all around the world in the various journals and stuff like that. But this is without question one of the truly great topics. Oh no, what did I do? I hope you guys can still see this. Oh no, that just covered my view. Boom! I thought I hit the end stream. I was going to start swearing. Yeah, Leonore Leet would be one of them, T.O. Her work on the Kabbalah. And I'll get that back. I haven't, Steve Acosta. I have not read any erotic fiction. I don't read fiction hardly at all. I wish I did, except for my daughter's works. There we go. There's a pretty good. This is my Infinity collection. Infinity. It started with this man right here. Ruddy Rucker. Infinity in the Mind. Years and years and years ago. That was the first book on infinity that I ever read. And I never looked back. I collected everything I could. Infinity, The Infinite Book, Understanding Infinity by Gardner, Levine, Gullen. This, I believe, is by Oppie. Yes, The Logic of Infinity. That is so deep I can't grasp it. The Infinite by A.W. Moore. This book completely terrified me and blew my mind. I was shocked. Robert Kaplan. That's a fantastic book. The Art of the Infinite. Oh, here's Graham Oppie. Graham Oppie. Gosh dang, this guy's deep. Philosophical Perspectives on Infinity. Holy shish kebab. Mayor is one of the fun popularizers. Infinity and Beyond. Fun stuff. That's good stuff right there. I'm not kidding. But this subject just kind of expands your mind in ways that no other subject possibly can. And then the uses of infinity and roads to infinity and books on faster than the speed of light, time travel in Einstein's universe, the infinitesimal. Now that's by Amir Alexander. That's about infinitesimals in calculus. And then James Gluck, time travel, how to build a flying saucer, how to think about weird things, the illusion of God's present. This is a brain book by Ramachandran, Phantoms in the Brain. That's about brain stuff. You got to study the brain too, you know. His other book, The Telltale Brain, and this one, The God Part of the Brain. That was a fun read. That was quite interesting and eye-opening. And then Sartre, Being and Nothingness. What's this one? This is an old and goldie. Yeah, Being and Philosophy. Crosby, this one. Boy, this was a tough one. The Scepter of the Absurd. That was Crazy Beings. That is fun. Oh, and this one, Emmanuel Severino, The Essence of Nihilism. Boy, that's a tough one. He takes nihilism to task. That's pretty good. Kaplan, The Nothing That Is. Scythe, Zero. Sarah Bakewell, At the Existentialist Cafe. Becoming, a commentary on Heidegger's Being and Time, and then Heidegger Being and Time, and then Levinas and the Night of Being. Ruddy Rucker, Geometry, Relativity in the Fourth Dimension. And then we have Douglas Hofstadter, Metamagical Themas, Aristotle, Metaphysics, The Reality of Being, that's Gurdjieff, Witchcraft, Sorcery, and Superstition, and then Intelligent Design, Creationism, and its Critics. This book by Pinnock is one that really helped me grasp the silliness of the creationists' arguments. And then down below them, more word books, 2,000 Quips and Quotes, 2,000 Most Challenging and Obscure Words, How to Think Fast and Slow, Historians' Fallacies, The Adventurers by Daniel Boorstin, the Oxford Dictionary of Word Histories, Word Origins, The Idea of History, stuff like that. So that's, holy cow, that's a lot of reading. Now, most of this stuff I have read. Most of this stuff I really have read. That's the reading stuff. Some of it I do use for research. And I mean, I read in order to, make my index so that I can then turn back around and research. But yeah, if you guys want me, you own an Infinity Stone. Sure, Doug. Sure. Here, I'll drink to that. Next, you're going to be telling me it can translate unknown languages. Oh, hey, Ryan Larson, welcome. What a great idea. Write a book called Reassess Your Religion after Silman's book on chess. Wow. That's cool. That is really cool. Okay, so, yeah, Sach's book too, T.O. Sach's books would be very important for me to take. So that's that one section. Now, in this next section, boy, do I even have the space? Hold on. I've got to move my chess books. I love my chess books too. There are a couple of chess books I would take with me without question. My problem is the really good books that I would want to take with me if I had to run and go real quick are the great big bulky heavy ones, man. I would have to be 10 times tougher than I am to take all the books I want. For instance, everything in this basement. In other words, there damn well better be a fire in my house. I'm going to be flipping torqued if that happens. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this here, and what I'll do is I'll name off the books and try to describe them. This is the next section. I just showed y'all that section, right? Rather than move it along, I will point. This is more of my, and the majority of this I've read as well. Let me start on the top. This is Hamilton, the collected works of Plato, the whole works. Eugene Erdős, Veni Vidi Vici, Latinisms, to make me sound intelligent. I don't know any Latin. Jane Harrison, Prolegomena to the Greek Religion. Fantastic book, but it's dated. But that's really good. And then you've got Suetonius. This is kind of my Greek literature section that I wanted to try to round my education out. You know, Nibley read all the epics and tragedies and all that for decades. So I thought, well, if Nibley can do it, I can do it, right? So I began collecting stuff, the Battle of Salamis, the end of the Roman Empire in the West, the ancient Greeks, the Homeric hymns in translation. That's been upgraded translation-wise. Greek drama, Pericles in Athens, The War at Troy by Quintius of Smyrna, the Odes of Horace in their Latin with an English parallel column, the Caesar in Gaul, completely in Latin. I can't read it, but it's got the footnotes. It gives you most of the Latin. To Think Like God by Harriman. This is one of the most astonishing books for comparing two different kinds of Greek philosophers in antiquity and what they thought of God. And it's illustrated. And it's an absolutely beautiful book. It's got fantastic illustrations. It's wonderfully written. It's just a really beautiful book. Klein, 1777 BC, The Destruction. I've got Farr's Homeric Greek, Robert Graves, The Greek Myths, The Oedipus Cycle, Aristophanes, The Argonautica, The Annals of Imperial Rome by Tacitus, Ovid's Metamorphoses. I've got Mandelbaum's translation of Ovid's Metamorphoses, which I read was probably, which I've heard is one of the best. And then the Aeneid and the Aeneid of Virgil. And then, of course, I've got the Greek Magical Papyri. That's very important, especially if you want to beat the snot out of John Gee's stupid Mormon apologetics on the Book of Abraham. That one will help you. Then Plutarch's Lives, the lives of Charlemagne, the letters of the younger Pliny, Tacitus, the Agricola and the Germania, the Satyricon of Petronius, the early history of Rome. I mean, on and on and on. You know, Aeschylus, Euripides, Thucydides, Aristophanes, St. Augustine, Plautus, Apollonius of Rhodes, you know, the complete works of Tacitus. You got Sophocles. You have Finley's The World of Oedipus. You have Lucretius on the nature of the universe. The 10 plays of Euripides, Apollonius of Rhodes, Sophocles, Euripides, the Aeneid of, that should be up there, the Aeneid, Homeric materials, stuff like that. And then I've got gospel stuff, the apostolic times of the apostles, biblical archaeologist reader. That was back when biblical archaeology was, this is pre-Dead Sea Scroll biblical archaeology materials. And I wanted to have this stuff so that I could compare the impact from the pre-Dead Sea Scroll archaeology and what we thought we knew about the Jews with the post-Dead Sea Scroll stuff on the Jews. And that's kind of fun to do. And then I've got a little bit of Paul Tillich. I've got Friedman, who wrote the Bible. This was a profound, Richard Elliott Friedman. This is about the documentary hypothesis. I read this early in my apologist time. And this was profoundly influential. That was really something. And then, to be honest with you, this is one of the books I read. I loved this book for its simplicity, its elegance, and its profound depth. And you go, can you put all that together? You can, because this is one of the books that I read as an apologist when I was determining to improve my biblical scholarship, because Millet and Jackson and McConkie and those guys within the Mormon sphere just didn't give me much. All they were doing was Mormonizing the Bible. Barclay, The Introduction to the First Three Gospels, a revised edition, William Barclay. Man, that is good reading. I love that book. This is one of them. Joseph Fitzmyer, Raymond Brown, some of the great theologians / scholars of the other religions is what I was reading and asking everybody at fair. I was asking, how come we aren't writing this fantastic biblical scholarship? I mean, the crap we write's worthless. And they said, no, we've got to keep in line with the brother. Keep in line with the goddamn brethren. That's all they gave a shit about. Just drove me crazy. So anyway, I'm not supposed to talk that way. I apologize that you are goddamn brethren, but you guys in Salt Lake City running the show, man, don't get me started. Okay, now for my favorite part of my bookshelf. Let me see how I can do this. Hold on. I'll tell you what I'm going to do just for you, my beloved audience. Only on the BYP show do you get this kind of absolute unprofessional goofiness. However, I promise you're going to love this. Hold on. I need to pull my desk over here. It's a great big heavy tome here. It's a great big cotton picking wood thing. I want to show you. This is my favorite part of my bookshelf because, look, you don't have to believe in it, right? I don't care whether you believe in Jesus or not. It doesn't matter. I don't care what your interpretation of Jesus is. That doesn't matter. The fact is, Jesus is one of the most interesting personalities ever to exist. That's just how it is. So live with it, learn, study, and enjoy, because it's a fantastic topic. Okay, I'm just pointing my finger so that I can. Okay, now I got to go this way. Okay, so I'm going to show you this shelf. What I'm going to do. Okay. Am I boring you all to death? Hey, legend, good to see you. Uzdovnish, yes, I would take him too, Tio. Absolutely. So, yeah, this is an exclusive. After this, nobody's going to ever watch me again. They're going to say that guy is completely Looney Tunes. They wouldn't be far off. So here's what I've done. Hold on. Oh, let me get down on my knees. Part of the, part of it was ego. There's no question about that, being an apologist, right? You got to have a certain amount of ego. Otherwise, you're not going to defend anything, right? So, and all of these guys who were publishing in the BYU studies, and they had these 150 footnote papers and the farms materials and all that. I mean, it was intimidating, right? Because who was I? Some Idaho spud picking punk? I was a nobody. I still am, but that's irrelevant at this point. And so I was intimidated, and I said, if I'm going to at least try to keep up so that I can at least have a gist of the kind of conversation. And during the time when I was an apologist was the really big time in historical Jesus studies. It was huge. It was really something else. It was the heyday, the 1990s. Meyer, I've got his books around here somewhere. I can't find them right now. I'll find it eventually. But Meyer's book, the great big 4-volume sets on the marginal Jew, that was huge. And everybody was talking about him. And this was the heyday of Dennis MacDonald. And this was the heyday of Dale Allison Jr. Actually, this was the time when the Dead Sea Scrolls was really huge. I mean, this was the heyday of Hugh Nibley, right? I mean, it was just amazing what was coming out. So I began to collect stuff, right? And reading. And one of the really crazy things is, hey, Radio Free Mormon, good to see you. Oh, I did, didn't I? I got down on my knees for my beloved friend, Radio Free Mormon. You got good timing, cowboy. Yeah, baby. Okay, so what I did now, and hold on, let me stand back up. My knees are already giving out. It sucks to get old. I'm just saying. All right, so pay attention. This is significant. I spent a good part of my life in this part of my library for dang good reason, because you don't have to come to any fast, hard conclusions or whatever you want to call it, right? But you do have to read. You do have to study. Now, Radio Free Mormon's going to tell you the same thing about Shakespeare, and he's going to be absolutely correct. And I suck at Shakespeare, but Radio Free Mormon is really quite good. Now, he has advised me, if I'm going to do anything in Shakespeare at this point, start with Hamlet, and so I'm going to, right? Well, same with Jesus studies. You don't have to worry about confirming or disconfirming or anything about belief. Just get it under your belt what is being said about him, so that you don't sound like such a blinker and blind bozo like I used to as an apologist. Well, I vowed to quit being seen as an idiot. I still haven't succeeded. You know, you please one side and then the other one hates your guts. So you please them and then the other side hates your guts. You know, you can't win. So this study here is really cool. This is the fun crap right here. So this is, and I don't have them all, but I've got enough that I can make a complete nuisance of myself. Truly. Hold on. Oh, got to push this back again. Sorry, here I am grunting and wheezing and carrying on like a cotton picking madman. I apologize. I feel bad, but I'll get over it. One of the most influential, and again, it doesn't matter if you like him or hate him. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in saying, is his book true or is it false? I don't give a damn about true and false when you come to the historical Jesus. Just grasp the parameters of the subject. That's what I was interested in doing. And it drove the guys at Fair crazy. They didn't like my approach at all. I'm like, do I look like I give a flying flip? What you think? So this is some pretty good stuff. And I'm going to pull all these out together if I can get to them. And there's many more of his books. I did not get his whole collection, but I got enough to realize that there is genuine room for varying, nuanced views of this character called Jesus. And there is a liberal Jesus. Oh, fuck. Those of you who hate the word, you can quit watching now. There is a conservative Jesus interpretation. Those of you who hate this word, quit watching now. There is, and this is Blitzoid, there is an atheist Jesus. Okay? So this is not just Jesus of Sunday school. Forget that. We're going to look at reality. John Shelby Spong, one of the most controversial of the bishops. He was actually a bishop in the Episcopal Bishop of Newark. Bishop John Shelby Spong. He's dead now. Controversial as all get out. I mean, people in his own church hated him. And yet he was world renowned for this book. I'm just telling you what. Rescuing the Bible from Fundamentalism. This is what showed me that I could no longer trust what Bruce R. McConkie wrote in his Mortal Messiah series. Yes, I read every bloody one of those. Dad collected them, and I read them all, including the Millennial Messiah. I read them all. But McConkie was just a fundamentalist, literalist idiot. I don't care what his calling was. His brain was pea-sized compared to what is available. He narrowed it down so narrow that he taught you an entirely false Jesus. He misled us, and that is the way it happened. Yes, I was mad about it for a while. It was my fault. When I began to cross-check everything, I recognized how narrow-minded Mormonism made me on this topic. And that is why the majority of my bookshelf is all about historical Jesus stuff. Because I hate trying to be a narrow-minded bigot, bozo, bore, right? Born of a woman. John Shelby Spong, A Bishop Rethinks the Birth of Jesus. This book will absolutely scandalize you. The Hebrew Lord, Jesus in the Old Testament. Spong again. Jesus for the Jesus for the non-religious. And you go, that doesn't even make sense. He will. You got to read it. Why Christianity Must Change or Die. He might as well have written Why Mormonism Must Change or Die, and they are slowly, gently changing. It's like pulling wisdom teeth. And then Reclaiming the Bible for the Non-Religious World, John Shelby Spong. So those are some of the books, and I've got others here. I know I've got others, but these texts kind of opened me up to the realization that, wow, I really don't know a lot about Jesus. And in Mormon, they love to give you the impression that, well, I mean, we study other religious faiths and cultures, and we know what other people believe. Bullshit. They do not. They don't know diddly spit about what everyone believes about Jesus. They don't do this kind of work. I guarantee you I've read more books on Jesus and the historical Jesus than Bruce R. McConkie ever imagined existed. That's how narrow-minded he was. He quoted two people, his daddy-in-law, Joseph Fielding Smith, and James E. Talmage. You think I'm kidding? Go look up his books. That's the only, I lied. What's his name? Farrer, Canon Farrer. He quoted him periodically. McConkie didn't know spit about the views of Jesus. Bruce Metzger, the text of the New Testament, the manuscripts, the transmission. Excuse me. Good stuff about the biblical manuscripts. Fun reading. So, other texts, marking through and marking thought and talk. Excuse me. In New Testament Greek, this is one of those detailed scholarly books that nobody and their dog will ever read because it used to be a doctoral dissertation, except for the BYP. He read it, and yeah. The Testament of Jesus Sophia, a redaction critical study of the eschatological discourse in Matthew. Now, can you imagine at all any Mormon scholar this side of 1830 at all who would even have that kind of a title, let alone do the research that this guy did? I don't think half the Mormons even know what the word redaction critical study is. 470 pages worth. The rhetoric of characterization of God, Jesus, and Jesus' disciples in the Gospel of Mark, another doctoral dissertation. This one was really good. Now, this guy is a Christian apologist, but he is very solid. I really enjoyed his analysis of the various Greek words and the nuances that he put together on the theme, the meaning, the changing, evolving understanding of the atonement and the cross. Leon Morris, The Apostolic Preaching of the Cross. I bought that at a Christian used bookstore for $0.10 years ago. But it is really well done. He definitely knows more about the cross than James E. Talmage possibly ever could have. Even though Talmage wrote the almost scripture book, Jesus the Christ. What he did is he Mormonized the New Testament. It's bunk. He used intellectual, spiritual sounding gobbledygook to try to impress you that this is a revelation and therefore it's true. Not a chance. It's dated, it's old, it's not all that sophisticated, and it's gosh dang boring, dry reading. I read it twice on my mission. I speak from experience. Jesus, according to the early witnesses, James M. Robinson, if you like this subject, there's a name you'll want to remember. James Robinson, he's very important. The Dead Sea Scrolls and Christian Origins, Joseph Fitzmyer. Absolutely anything written by this Catholic scholar, usually on the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Aramaic, well, his book, his information on Tobit was excellent too. Qumran Messianism, the Aramaic Son of God. What's the book? The Genesis Apocryphon. The Genesis Apocryphon. Fitzmyer was the man on the Genesis Apocryphon. Here's another Jewish scholar that absolutely rocked my world because he demonstrated the Christian bias in the study of Jesus of Nazareth from the four Gospels. And he said, okay, would you like to see a Jewish scholar's view? And the Christian scholarly world of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the New Testament and all applauded him and said, please do bring forward your view. We would love this. And it absolutely scandalized him. Sensational book. The Changing Faces of Jesus by Geza Vermes. You must get that book and read it. Really interesting stuff. Okay, here we go. BYP continuing to bore his audience. I apologize. Well, you stuck with me. How about that? Alan F. Segal. Anything by this man, keep his name on. Two Powers in Heaven. Very, very important text on early Jewish rabbinic reports about Christianity and Gnosticism, about two deities in heaven. And Alan F. Segal again, Paul the Convert. This was really, really, really a good book. This gave me insight into Paul that Richard Lloyd Anderson's analysis of understanding Paul didn't quite give me. So that was a fun comparison contrast. And then Hendrikus Boers, who was Jesus? This is part of the historical Jesus information. Not a very big book, but a very interesting one. Let me know when you want me to quit because I'm serious. What I need to do, instead of naming the books, I just got to say, yeah, this is my Jesus. Are you bored to death of Jesus yet? I mean, we've heard Jesus our whole life, right? Here's one on translating the New Testament that I thought was really cool. This was quite good. Stan Porter and Mark Boda. That shows translation issues. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give you every cotton picking name of every book. Hold on. Let me just pick a few. Criminy, I'm starting to bore myself. Oh, this one. This one, brand new, Robert J. Hutchinson, Searching for Jesus. Dan Peterson says it's one of the best books he's ever read, and that shows me how shallow the Farms scholarship must have been, because this book was not nearly in depth as most of the books I have, but it was a good attempt. It was okay. It was good. He tried to update and try to build the faith, and end on a positive note, but we still don't have diddly spit about Jesus physically in the world. We don't know if he even existed. We can't prove it, etc. So, one of my favorite books, and it's a doozy, Gnostic Secrets of the Essenes, the Initiatory Teachings of the Last Supper, Mark Gaffney. I've actually done videos on this. I need to do some more on that. And then I've got stuff on the canon, the canonization of the Bible, the synoptic problem of the Gospels, commentaries on the Gospels. I've got stuff by Richard Carrier on the historicity of Jesus, where he says Jesus never existed. Yes, you got to read that side too. And there for a while, I was pretty much persuaded by him. Not so much now, though. And then Borg got real popular with Jesus there in the 1980s. And then Tom Wright, The Original Jesus, Jesus Within Judaism by Charles Worth. Charles Worth did the big studies on the pseudepigrapha of the Old Testament, which was very, very important and influential. And then John Dominique Crossan. Now, you don't have to agree with him, but I mean, the man is a historic Jesus machine, man. He is phenomenal. He's done a boatload of work on Jesus, the revolutionary biography, excavating Jesus beneath the texts behind the stones. That was kind of fun. Speculative, of course, but really fun. And then the essential Jesus, original sayings in the earliest texts. And then, of course, his famous The Historical Jesus, the life of a Mediterranean peasant, which really offended everybody. Crossan was not out to win brownie points or get his second anointing from Mormonism. He was trying to tell the history. And then The Cross That Spoke on the Gospel of Peter, being a completely interesting, different emphasis than we have in the New Testament Gospels. That was about as fun as watching paint dry on the wall read, but you got to read the junk. And then In Search of Paul, he even got into Paul. This is still all Crossan's work. And then John Dominique Crossan, Who Killed Jesus? That was a Lulu too. That was good stuff. Oh, to reread all this crap, I'd be 95 by the time I was done. So, The Historical Christ and Theological Jesus. This is one of my very favorite scholars besides Crossan. And this is Dale Allison Jr. This man is so profound. He is so well read. He is so intellectually honest and realistic that he is a complete breath of fresh air compared to the Mormon crap I've been digesting for decades. So I'm going to recommend him highly. This is real good reading. And The Intertextual Jesus, Scripture in Q by Dale Allison Jr. It'll blow your mind. And his magnum opus, Constructing Jesus. What was Jesus? And he goes through all of the texts with the fine-tooth comb, 600 pages worth of analysis. Utterly impressive. Good stuff. One of my favorite authors. So I've got, and then Dennis MacDonald, another one of my absolute favorite authors, without question. MacDonald is so influential. And Thomas Brody, The Birthing of the New Testament. This will scare the hair right off your chest if you have hair on your chest. That's an astonishing book. Very, very cool. Interesting stuff. Beyond the Quest of the Historical Jesus by Thomas Brody, where he shows where he lost his faith because of the intertextuality and mimetic character of the New Testament, simply taking the stories of the Old Testament and rewriting them into stories of this character called Jesus. Very amazing stuff. And that's basically Dennis R. MacDonald from the Greek epics and classics of what he has said. So, and then we have more of the same. I've got all the Gnostic materials on Mary Magdalene, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the scholarship of Mary Magdalene, the resurrection of Mary Magdalene from the feminist point of view, the scholarship from the men, the Gospel of Mary, Karen King's The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, etc., The Secret Book of John, the Gnostic materials, The History of the Synoptic Tradition by Boltman. There is just a staggering, breathtaking amount of wealth. Jesus and Epicureanism, the historical figure of Jesus. Here's Borg and Croissant again. Whoops. I had them on the wrong part of the shelf. I've got so many of them. Jesus of Nazareth by Bornkom. That was cool. And then Elaine Pagels, one of my all-time favorites. Here she is. Beyond Belief, the Judas material. Oh, and Margaret Barker. Elaine Pagels and Margaret Barker, two of my favorite female authors. The Gnostic Gospels by Pagels. Schroeder, the German, Jesus in the New Testament. That was quite the book, too. That was pretty scholarly. That one could not be done in Sunday school. It would go over everybody's head. This is by far the most conclusive, Dominating Historical Jesus, a comprehensive guide by Thiessen and Mertz, Holy, Shishka, and Bob. That's quite the read. They summarize every one of the scholarly approaches to Jesus, atheist, Christian, Jewish, everybody. And they try to figure out, was Jesus historical? Fun stuff. You got to have the controversy between Paul and Peter, so you have to get this one. The Orthodoxy and Heresy in Earliest Christianity. There was no orthodoxy in earliest Christianity. There was just differences of opinion of the apostles between Peter and Paul won, much as they hate you to realize that. And then Charlesworth, the Messiah. Anyway, so on and on and on. And then all of this is Elaine Pagels and Margaret Barker down here, and more of Avalos, Hector Avalos, the Christian who turned atheist, on the bad Jesus, more on the Synoptics, the Gnostic materials, Robert Price, the Pre-Nicene New Testament, 54 formative texts. And when we want to study the New Testament and early Christianity, we think there's only 4 Gospels and Paul. He shows how there were 54 formative texts of early Christianity that were seriously significant throughout the various areas where Christian groups existed. And only later, after 400 to 500 years, longer than America has existed as a free country, then they were all stamped out, destroyed, killed, and wiped out. But before then, there was all kinds of stuff out there floating around. Really weird, interesting gospels and testamentary literatures and stuff like that. Robert Price does a great job showing you the actual historical context of the New Testament. And I've been wanting to do videos of all this stuff, but maybe this will count as a video. You know, I've bored you all to death already, I'm sure. Yes, I do have a couple of books on Porter Rockwell. Coco B, welcome. Yeah, most of your shelves are full of Dr. Seuss. Hey, don't knock it. That man was genius. He's good reading, man. Yeah, Radio Free Mormon. That was one of the cool things about the Gospel of Peter, is the cross that actually conversed with him. John Dominique Croissant talks about that in The Cross That Spoke. Yeah, that's in the Gospel of Peter. Good stuff. Boring book, but it's great information. So the Mary Magdalene stuff. Oh, and then what I did, and I'm going to show you this. I have been intending this like now for, I mean, this has been going on for like a decade. I mean, holy flippin' cow, man. Time goes way too fast. I have been collecting the Enoch materials, the Enoch literatures of all those guys. It's all over there. And the early Christians and the Enoch materials, because that's fascinating. I noticed Derek Lambert has a brand new documentary out on the Enoch stuff and the Melchizedek materials. And for decades, I have been collecting Melchizedek materials. The Melchizedek tradition by Horton is one of the most important studies. William Hamblin, before he died, helped me get this copy. Bless his heart. I love the guy for that. And then these are dozens of scholarly articles out of the, well, this is Melchizedek and Melchiresha. I can't remember what this is out of, but this is a big study. And then this is the Journal of New Testament Studies, and this is the Melchizedek in Hebrews 7, and they translate all the different chapters that deal with Melchizedek. Oh, this is the Targums. This is Melchizedek as Divine Mediator by James Davila, and this is El Elyon in Genesis. This is in the Journal of Biblical Literature. I have collected dozens of articles in not one binder, but 3. Oh, and there's some more. There's dozens of articles there that I've ridiculously photocopied. And finally, my third binder on Melchizedek crap, 11Q Melchizedek in the New Testament. This is by De Jong. This is in New Testament Studies. This was one of the most famous analysis of the Dead Sea Scroll text in existence. And then you've got the Melchizedek text. 11Q Melchizedek is huge in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So absolutely everybody and the dog wrote commentaries on it, arguing back and forth. And I photocopied all of this stuff. Andrei Orlov, one of the great Enoch scholars, good friend of mine, Melchizedek Legend of Second. That's the Slavonic Enoch. And then you've got Melchizedek in the Heavenly Priesthood. And you have Hebrews 7:3, without beginning of days or end of life, the topos for a true deity. And there are just, Melchizedek as King of Righteousness in the Evangelical Quarterly. And you've got a note on Jesus's messianic consciousness in 11Q Melchizedek. And you've got the common priesthood of Philo and First Peter and Melchizedek. This is the Journal for the Study of New Testament. Anyway, it goes on and on and on, but there's a lot of fun crap here that Mormons have no idea even exists. They think they know all about Melchizedek because of what Joseph Smith gave them. And he gave them just a smidgen compared to what is available. And what is available does not confirm his theology. I'm sorry to report to those of you who are hoping I could find a foothold to help out Joseph Smith. When it comes to the Melchizedek stuff, there isn't any. None whatsoever. So, and I will put, I've got to put some of this stuff together in some videos too, because it really is quite fun. Yes, T.O., there's lots of Melchizedek in the Qumran text. That's the 11Q Melchizedek, one of the big studies of that. So anyway, holy cow, I'm exhausted and I haven't even gotten through a fifth of my library. How disgusting is that? Dang, man, I've been talking nonstop. Gosh, the audience has stuck with me. I'm impressed. I don't ever get bored of this stuff. I appreciate the fact that none of you have yet. Of course, then I haven't given you any of the stuff. I'm just listing the titles of the books. So let me do this real quick. Hold on. Let me take down my chess board so that I can show you this part of my library. You're going to get mad at me if I go over an hour and a half. In that case, I've got 2 minutes left. If I do, just suck it up, Cupcake. This is a pretty cool part of my library too, I think. So, yeah, more or less. Usually on my Sunday night lives. Welcome, Sinner LXVI. Yeah, I do the Mormonism live stuff mostly on the BYP Live Sunday night show, and then I do chess live on Saturday mornings, and I I did do one this morning, and I am going to do one tomorrow morning. But yeah, so I alternate between chess and Mormonism, philosophy, stuff like that. So this is one of my favorite parts of the bookshelf too, because this is the real scholarly crap. A lot of people didn't like him. Robert Eisenman, James, the brother of Jesus, the New Testament Code, Dead Sea Scrolls Uncovered, and the Dead Sea Scrolls and the First Christians. I myself found him very cool. I enjoyed reading him. And then you got the works of Philo, more Paul, Socrates, Helen of Troy. Now these texts here are pretty important. These are the landmark Julius Caesar, the landmark Thucydides, the landmark Herodotus, and the landmark Xenophon Anabasis. Important stuff if you like ancient Greece, Dictionary of Greek and Latin Origins. Now this material here, all of this stuff is Bart Ehrman, and he's been very prolific through the years. All of this stuff is Bart Ehrman up to here. And then over here is all of William Dever and Mark Smith. And more William Dever. I've been told to call him Dever. Oh, and then this is Raphael Patai, the Hebrew goddess. So Raphael Patai, and all of these guys are biblical archaeologists and scholars, and they're very, very super fun to read. And now this is one of my favorite parts of my bookshelf also. The King Arthur. Where is it? There. Boy, I've got to tilt that down. Sorry. This is one of my favorite bookshelves for recreational learning. Robin Hood, The Quest for Merlin by Nikolai Tolstoy, The Sword and the Grail by one of the Sinclairs, the descendants of the Sinclairs, very famous kings in England. No joke. The Development of the Arthurian Romances, the Le Morte d'Arthur by Sir Thomas Malory. Who was St. Patrick? He was in that same era. The Sources of the Grail for the Grail Stories. That is a spectacular book. Geoffrey of Monmouth, of course, The History of Great Britain. And then King Lear, this is by Goodrich, and Merlin, and then The Holy Grail by Goodrich. Fun stuff. And then The Arthurian Britain, Voices in Medieval Country Literature. This is Mark Hale on Merlin and the King of the Celts. Very good stuff. The Discovery of King Arthur, The Real Camelot. And then, of course, you have to have Graham Hancock. Come on, he's fun. He's fun, Magicians of the Gods, the America Before, stuff like that. And now this is more New Testament commentary on the Apostle Paul. And I have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of books until you get to here. And then you see Lucifer, the devil, and Satan. History books of all phases of the devil. Ooh, you shouldn't study the devil. I don't. I study the history of the devil because it's a really remarkably interesting idea of how to gain power over people, right? Just tell them the devil's gonna do things my way or suffer, right? It's gotta scare the snot out of you, right? Then they can control you and dominate you. Yeah, baby. So, and then these are the classics. The Apostolic Fathers. This is the Lieb Classical Library. I've got Homer, Josephus, Euripides, the Apostolic Fathers. And then this is some of my mysticism, folklore, more New Testament crap. Oh, hey, there's all of my video games. Yes, I used to play video games. I only kept about 15 of them. Now there's the one, the Universal Kabbalah by Leonore Leet. Man, she is fantastic. And then this one, The Secret Doctrine of the Kabbalah. That's the real Kabbalah, not the crap that what's her nose Madonna went through. No, that's not Kabbalah. And then I've got the Bahir and the Zohar. The Zohar's upstairs. And then Uzdovnis, one of my favorite authors. Thank you, the TO. I've got all my Uzdovnis collection here. and Mircea Eliade, and Peter Kingsley. He's pretty good too. Kingsley, I like. Robert G.K. Temple, The Serious Mystery. That's really interesting stuff. And then Merkur, The Mystery of Manna, The Food of the Gods, was actually drugs and mushrooms. Soma, The Divine Mushroom of Immortality by Wasson. Kumaraswamy is really a good guy, The Door in the Sky. He was an Indian philosopher. And then John Allegro, The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, the book that cost him his career. You dang right I've got that. And then there's my big Joseph Campbell collection. Both of those sides, Joseph Campbell. And then here's my Alan Watts junk. And then this is more of my Alan Watts and Mircea Eliade. And then these are more commentaries on the New Testament. And then there's some of my Margaret Barker materials. And here's my Shakespeare shelf, and it's all too short. I'm embarrassed to show you that I only have one small bookshelf of Shakespeare. And apologies to RFM that I don't take Shakespeare as seriously as he does. I do need to repent. By the time I get the time to study Shakespeare in any kind of depth, like RFM has, I will be about 150 years old. I apologize in advance for any confusion that might cause anybody. And then this is more of my spirituality, sort of mysticism, Carl Jung, Iamblichus, Gematria, the Pythagoras material, sacred geometry, Kabbalah, stuff like that. I've got all kinds of crap here. In Quest of the Hero, the Kabbalistic Tarot, the Matrix of Creation, Real Alchemy, the Cipher of Genesis, Kabbalistic Astronomy. Yeah, you got to read all this stuff. Alchemy and mysticism. And then down here, I've got medieval history, the history of the Byzantine state, the Gentile voices of teachers, William the Conqueror, the Sacred Chain, the Norman Conquest. Whew, on and on and on and on. Have I bored you yet? Oh, yes. Now I'm beginning to lose part of my audience. I figured I would. Okay. I have studied Hinduism a little bit. Probably more Buddhism than Hinduism, though. The polytheism of Hinduism is kind of hitting the road, Jack. So that's true. So now this is my science materials here. I do a lot of the popularizer materials. I agree. Hold on. Might be able to shed light. Oh, that didn't help at all. Shed light on the subject. You can't see it. Stuff on the universe. More stuff on the universe in mathematics. More stuff on the universe in mathematics. More stuff on time, quantum physics, mathematics. And here's my atheist bookshelf. I'll just zing across that. I have 87 books by atheisms, and then physics, and, basically just more crap that you got to read through and don't believe. And then this is my biblical stuff, where I have all my lexicons, concordances, grammars, commentaries on the New Testament Greek, the complete New Testament manuscripts, various interlinears of the Greek English Bible, the Hebrew Greek English Bible, etc., topology, James Dunn, the Theology of Paul. This is all my James Dunn collection here. He was a very prolific Christian scholar. Unity and diversity in the New Testament. That blew my mind as an apologist. I knew then that Mormons did not understand the New Testament hardly at all compared to this guy. There it is, Meyer, the marginal Jew. And then there's more stuff on the history of the New Testament problems. This set of books right here, these four, right here. The Analytical Key to the Old Testament by, Owens, 4 volumes. I traded about 90 of my books to get this set. Very, very expensive. It's a word-for-word commentary and complete exhaustive grammatical analysis of every Hebrew word and grammatical form. And it is sensational for research. Not to read through. It'll bore the snot out of you. And then here's my Hebrew Old Testament, my complete word study, Hebrew Old Testament, etymological, biblical Hebrew, textual criticism, the Septuagint with the Apocrypha in Greek, Gesenius Hebrew grammar, the Tephilim, the Tehillim, the Psalms, and just more. And this is all my German crap. And that's more of my German crap and Journal of Biblical Literature stuff. And then way down below is all of my mathematics books. Algebra, geometry, calculus, stuff like that. Are you still with me? Oh, more people showed up. Yeah, well, if I had all my money back from my books, I'd be a millionaire. Probably not, but maybe in today's terms. This is where I spent the money. See all of these binders? Every one of them are like 3 and 4 and 5 inches thick. This is not all, but this is many of my photocopies through the years of these scholarly materials with which, and then I did spiral ring binding on a lot of them. Dead Sea Scrolls, Urim and Thummim, Old Testament, New Testament, Egyptian crap, etc. Now, here's some of the literature that I've enjoyed in life. The romantic voices of British poetry, the poetry of Robert Frost, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, the collected poems of Emily Dickinson, Yeats' Mythologies, and then here's Yeats' A Vision. That's a very deep book. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Persig, and then more quotation stuff, and then Dante, the Inferno, and this is the Student's Milton of the Dante Inferno, the Women's Encyclopedia of Myth and Secret, Hamlet's Mill, very important. Oh, here's Martin Gardner's Lewis Carroll's annotated Alice in Wonderland, James Joyce studies, several volumes of that, Marlowe's Dr. Faustus and other plays. Here's Rosenthal, selected poems and 2 plays of William Butler Yeats. Here's some more of Robert Frost. And I've got stuff behind. Oh, yeah, my Goethe. Goethe's back there. Faust, Gargantua and Pantagruel by Rabelais. I've got that. What else have I got? I had to double stack this. Oh, this is Dickinson, more of Dickinson. And who is this clown? Oh, Christopher Marlowe. Whoops, I shouldn't call him a clown. He was a pretty influential writer. And then here's a collection of critical essays on The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. Yeah, you got to read The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, otherwise you're not in the know. Oh, and then here is Novalis. Novalis was quite the intellectual. No joke, man. And anyway, I've got stuff by Chaucer back there. And, on and on and on. Pilgrim's Progress and all that stuff. Nobody's interested in that anymore. What we want is video games and YouTube shorts that last 5 seconds and TikTok deals for 1 minute. We have been brainwashed and stupidified as a society, and we seem to be okay with doing that. We're being dumbed down so that we can be frickin' enslaved, and we're not doing anything about it. We're not protesting and rebelling against it. We are convinced that we can't think for more than 15 seconds. And I mean, I do the same thing. I make YouTube shorts and all that jazz. But we will lose our freedoms if we don't pull our heads out of our butts and quit letting this culture tell us we don't know how to think for very long. That's what we have to be protesting against. I mean, people in Orson Pratt's day and Joseph Smith's day memorized the Bible in Hebrew, English, and Greek, for hell's sake. None of us even know how to name the books in the Bible. 99% of the people haven't even read the stuff, right? So anyway, that's my preaching. Sorry to get carried away. Get it? Carried away. Yeah. Okay, here is my wonderful chess library. Woohoo! One of my very favorites. Jeremy Silman. I spiral ring bound these myself. All of his collection of books. Polgar, the most important tactics book in existence. More of Jeremy Silman. I've got Bobby Fischer. I've got Lipnitsky. I have what's-his-nose McCoy. Oh, the English opening. These are really kind of good. Chess openings for White explained by Lev Albert. Chess openings for Black explained by Lev Albert. I've got The Best of Chess Life and Review by Pandolfini. The Exhilarating Elephant Gambit. I've got Aaron Nimzovich's material, The World's Greatest Games by Reuben Fine, McDonald, Wira Montry, and Artur Yusupov. And I've got his entire chess course. That little baby right there cost me $300. I'm gonna go through that someday. And then more books on openings, how to beat your dad at chess, tactics, chess to enjoy, secrets of the Russian chess masters, modern chess strategy, and then Gary Kasparov's. I've got 4 volumes of the 8 that he produced on my great predecessors. There's enough chess there to keep a guy busy for at least 100 years. Holy Shishka and Bob, you guys, you're killing me here. This has got to be the most boring live anyone's ever seen, right? Who cares what BYP reads? Nobody, but everybody wanted to know what's your library about. So you guys asked, and the BYP delivers. Yeah. You got to admit, this is quite the unconventional live session, right? If nothing else, I should get an award for non-conventionality. Yeah. Oh, and then here is my really big piece chess set. And I mean, those are huge pieces. The kings are like 6 inches tall. That's my big wooden one. And then there's my magnetic one right there that I do most of my study on. So there's the chess stuff. Now, one last section. I'll hurry and go through real quick, and then I will let you guys go. I apologize for the boredom. However, this is pretty good stuff. This is most, I should say, of my Mormon collection up top. D. Michael Quinn, a lot of, well, except for the Bhagavad Gita, he didn't do that. That's Northrop Sargent's. And D. Michael Quinn and Maxine Hanks. I've even got the Voynich manuscript. Ha! Imagine that. The BYU professor looks at the Voynich manuscript. And then there's my Nibley collection. Oh, and then these are all my ancient sky watchers, stars, astronomy from antiquity, etc. And then this is one of my favorite philosophers of antiquity, David Feidler, his text, Alexandria's Use. And then back here is all of my Nibley collection, Enoch the Prophet, and An Approach to the Book of Mormon, Tinkling Brass and Cymbals, Sans Cumorah, all that noise. All of this stuff is my Dead Sea Scrolls stuff here, and Gnosticism. This is my intellectual history of antiquity. Here's all of my Enoch crap. This is more Mormonism from the liberal point of view, church history back there. And then all of this stuff way back there is the farm stuff that I kept. I kept everything from farms just in case. Then there's my Joseph Smith Papers collection. Those books right there cost as much as all the rest of my library. And then there's my wonderful daughter's books that she has written. And so, oh, and then here's a whole bunch. All of these photographs, photocopies, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 binders here, all having to do with the Joseph Smith Papyrus. And I've read it all. That's one of my favorite parts of my library because I wanted to defend it, and it ended up wiping me out. So, now, if that's not the most unconventional, ridiculous live session anyone has ever put together, I don't know what is. Can someone please come up with a goofball award or something for the BYP? Tell people, hey, you want to see how it's supposed to be done? Natural, realistic, without all the fluff, pap, and pablum, and just go like hell. Go look at the BYP's live session, right? I mean, hey, a guy can dream, can't he? Oh, I am exhausted. Anyway, so what have you guys been saying? Yeah, the Greek thought, and I haven't shown you all the Greek stuff I have. Oh, I've got, hang on. I've got another part of my library upstairs I got to take and show you. Holy cow, I don't even know if I can make it up the stairs. Hold on, let me chug the rest of my coffee so I can wake up and get some energy. I meant hot chocolate. Come on. Come on. Oh, okay. Yeah, let me show you the rest of my library upstairs. This is some of the, what I do is when I want to research and write, upstairs I'm by the window and it's lighter. It's a more natural light. And so this will be fun to show you what my upstairs part of my library looks like as I come through the, hold on. Whoa, it got dark in there. Yes, I am the Prince of Darkness. I keep my lights out on purpose. Okay, let me turn, hold on. Come on. Okay, here's my light. Here's my light here. Okay, now this shelf, okay, let me show you this real quick. Let me show you this part. Okay, these, boy, I got all this crap crowded. Down here in a stack on the floor, that stack of books there, those are all my various grammars and dictionaries. And then from here up, I've got stuff like my, there we go. Spiritual literacy. This is Charles, the Book of Jubilees. Here's some more Mircea Eliade, Dobin, the Odyssey and the Iliad by Homer, the New Testament, that's by Ehrman, Spirit and Nature, that's by Joseph Campbell, Sacred Narrative, that's Dandy's analysis of mythology. Oh yeah, Donna Hill, Joseph Smith, First Mormon. Jewish and Christian self-definition. I've got my materials on the Hermetic texts and the Tarot. Simon Southerton, Losing a Lost Tribe, Quest for Refuge, The Scandal of Reason, one of the deepest books I've ever read. I still can't quite picture how to do videos on that, but someday I will. Oh, and then here's the Kabbalah, but this is a very important Kabbalah text by Johann Reuchlin in the medieval ages. And then this guy, Karl Karenyi, one of my very favorites. He wrote Prometheus, and he's got a lot of stuff. Early Christianity, Eleusius, the Ancient Mysteries, the pre-Socratic philosophers, very important text. Jesus and the Dead Sea Scrolls. And then up here above, I've got the, oh, this is good stuff too. This is by, what's his nose? Oh, Carl Ruck, yeah. The World of Classical Myth, A Separate God by Petrament. Now, that was a very important Gnostic discovery, that Gnostics came out of Christianity. And then Julie Smith, The Gospel According to Mark. Jessenius's Hebrew Grammar, you got to have it. James Tabor, another one of my favorite biblical scholars. I've actually had him on a couple of my shows. Paul's Ascension to Paradise. Good puppy. Okay, good boy. Good boy. He's a good boy. Look, puppy wants to say hi to everybody. Okay, say hi, buddy. You're on camera. Woohoo! Oh, look at you. You good puppy. You're like a little tufflet. Yeah, you're the little tufflet. Yeah, well, all right. Okay, now this is the important part of the library I wanted to show you. Hang on. Hold on. I've got to get the light turned on. I'm not kidding. Nobody will ever do a live like this again. I'm just saying. So, Mike Lee Hassa, IDR for 50,000. I don't know what IDR means, but I hope that's dollars. If that is dollars, thank you. That is something else. Okay. If not, it's okay. Thank you for your contribution. I appreciate the donation. Those set of blue books right there are the absolute world famous Theological Dictionary of the New Testament by Cattell and Friedrich. Those are astonishing analysis of Greek. Hey, that's enough, buddy. Quiet. Who's talking here? You or me? He barks, I talk, but he's repeating what I say. He's read all these books with me. So, and then here's the early Christian fathers. There it is. And it's those. Now, there's my Aramaic Zohar. right there that I got from the Kabbalah Center. It's got Aramaic on one side and English on the other. There's my Daniel Matt Zohar, 12 volumes. Very pricey, very impressive, very awesome. Then next to them, I have the Critical New International Dictionary of New Testament Theology. Then I have the Theological Lexicon of the New Testament. And then over here, I have more of the early Christian fathers, all those volumes. It's those that I created so much of my old library books for. And I lucked out. The guy let me trade for them. I didn't pay a dime. Well, I mean, I did, but I traded the books for him. So I've got all of the ante-Nicene, post-Nicene, pre-Nicene church fathers. Fabulous stuff. And then I've got a few of the Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament. And then Joseph Dan, his Jewish mysticism texts, the 4 volumes. That little jewel, that little set cost me $200 too. That was pricey. But those are super sensational nice. So let me show you this stack here. And then I promise I will quit. I have really, truly probably bored the living snot out of you. I apologize. Yeah, Daniel Matt Zohar. I told T.O. about that. He got him. He can testify along with me that that is the translation to read. So this set of books here, this whole stack, this pile, this tower of texts are some of the most important references I have, like Greek grammar beyond the basics. Now, that's Daniel B. Wallace. He's the real deal. That is some good stuff. And the grammar on the New Testament Greek by Friedrich Wilhelm Blas. Very important scholarship on the Greek New Testament. And then there's the Hebrew Aramaic lexicon, Brown Driver Driggs. And this is my bilingual dictionary of the Hebrew and Aramaic Old Testament. This is fun stuff too. Excellent, by Kohler and Baumgartner. This is the Zondervan NIV Naves Topical Bible. This saves you boatloads of time if you don't have a computer. But since we all have a computer, we can look it up by typing it in. Gesenius's Hebrew Chaldee Lexicon. That's fun to use. And then all of these are just basic grammars, a grammatical aid to the Greek New Testament. These are some of the stuff I can use in my research. Vine's Expository Dictionary of the New Testament Words. Here's another one of the volumes of the Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament. I believe there's 10 volumes in that set, and I think I've acquired about 4 of them. I've just bought them from used bookstores, but that's on the Hebrew. One of the most important texts, it's a set of texts, Theological Word Book of the Old Testament by Harris, Archer, and Waltke. That's good stuff. Yeah, they're Christians, but don't let that bias you too much. They're pretty good. And then my treasure. Oh, and this is a treasure because it's so huge. This, my dear friends, is the compact edition of the Oxford English Dictionary. There's 2,400 pages in this volume. Oh, I mean, it's like lifting weights. And this is volume 1, A through O. And you think I'm kidding. This book takes a magnifying glass to be able to see. They have put absolute, all-inclusive etymology, history, evolution of every single English word that has ever existed. It is 100% total exhausted. And you think I'm kidding when I say this takes a magnifying glass. You can't read that, can you? I've just about got that all the way up to the camera. I mean, this is like 1 point type. They've crammed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of words on each page. And you can see how thick it is in relation to my hand, each volume. Hundreds of thousands of entries. To get this online, it costs you $1,000. I got mine at a used bookstore for $39. Yes, I feel bad about stealing it out from under him, but he was thrilled to sell it to me. He named the price, and I agreed. No, I didn't tell him I would have paid him $1,000 for it. He said $39. I said sold, gave him the credit card, and took my treasure home, laughing all the way. The reason I wanted to get this too is because it is absolutely the most exhaustive dictionary for our language. Very useful, very fun, very cool, but I can't read it. I have to get a gigantic, and I mean gigantic, magnifying glass just to be able to read it. So, but anyway, I've got it. So fun stuff. Oh, and then I've got more Greek lexicons and dictionaries and classical entries. I'm not even going to lift those. Those are bigger and heavier than these are. So anyway, please, show and tell is over. Come on. Oh, look at this. I'm breaking a sweat just lifting those flipping heavy books. That's idiotic. Nobody else in the whole world does this except the BYP, right? You dang right, baby. I'm here for you. Okay, you guys. Yes, it is like microfiche, Mosia. Absolutely. So, yeah, way too many books. And I've got more upstairs, and no, I'm not going to climb those stairs and go get those books to show you. Those are my dictionaries of whatever, German, French, etc. I'm tired, man. And then my wife collects books too. I mean, she got all kinds of stuff about quilts and artwork and pottery. I mean, she's an artist too. So, holy cow. Can we just say that the intellect is probably as important to nourish as our bodies are? And so I've kind of had that approach. I've kind of had that attitude where if I'm going to work out my body, then I want to work out my mind also. So you may as well find a subject that really interests you and stick with it and study it. And my problem is I find so much that I am so interested in that I can't just laser focus on one and become really, really, really adept at that one, because then I become a narrow-minded bigot. I want to stay broad and tolerant and adaptable and absorbing of the total knowledge that I can acquire, and I can't live long enough. And so there's a downside to that approach too. So I am a hobbyist of many interesting subjects, and I enjoy sharing them. And I appreciate you guys and your support financially, physically, psychologically, spiritually, mentally, etc. I appreciate you being in the audience tonight. And it's been a lot of fun, but that's basically, without going into too much detail, what my library is. I do enjoy science. I do enjoy a little bit of literature. Most of it is the ancient materials, the Greek and the Egyptian and the Hebrew and the biblical. But I do enjoy the modern literature, the Marlowes, the Shakespeares, the Goethes, the Dickinsons, some of the poems, Robert Frost, and so on and so forth. And I enjoy the intellectual scientific stuff, the astronomy, the mathematics, the quantum physics, how that works with reality and all that jazz. And I do like the scriptural materials, not because I believe they're true, but because, like it or not, they have been the greatest influence on the entire course of our Western civilization. And you have to know your foundation in order to be a decent, understanding Western human. Because the East, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Taoists, etc., they also are part of our humanity, but man, they don't think the way we do. We love to pretend, well, we're the scientists. We know what reality is. So they need to listen to us, right? Does that remind you of being a Mormon missionary? If it does, that should scare the hell out of you because that's how Western man thinks, right? Well, our arrogance is going to be our undoing. We ignore that half of the world and pretend like we're the only ones God has given knowledge. Nothing could be further from the truth. Oh my. And yeah, see, I haven't even gotten my books that are packed in boxes of all of my Buddhism and my Taoism and all. I haven't even looked at those. And no, I'm not going to right now. They're in the other niche where I had to stack them because I didn't have enough bookshelf space. Woohoo! So, all right, you guys, I'm going to call it good. Oh, well, thank you, Milky Hassa. Very good. Oh, well, thank you, Tio. That's very kind. Hey, Ken Brown, good. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, I'm going to do a chess live again. I've done two, one yesterday, one today. And today's was a whopper. I'm going to have to really work my butt off to top this because today's was fun. But yeah, for those of you who are interested in chess, tomorrow morning, President's Day, 9 o'clock live, BYP will be at it again. So anyway, yeah. Well, thank you for all of your generosity and your time and your support. And now you know why I am such a nut job. And I hope it doesn't affect you guys not wanting to watch me anymore. I doubt it will. So I'm going to head out. I appreciate all of your efforts. What it says, there's new comments. Oh, yes. Oh, well, thank you, old what's his face. Appreciate it. My good pleasure, you guys. A lot of fun. So I'm going to keep reading in all these topics so that I can keep producing more videos, more recordings, and more live sessions with you guys sharing all of this loud noise that we love to imagine is knowledge. Hopefully it is. So just stay tuned. We've got another what? I'm 63 and I'll live to about 199. So we've got another century or so of pure blessed learning to do together. So let's do it together and have fun. Remember, be kind, make friends, and do well. Be nice to yourselves, and I will catch you very soon. Hey, Peter Higgs, don't want to forget mentioning you. So appreciate all the fun you guys have with me, and I'll see you in the morning, those of you who love the chess. And, oh, Steve, thank you very much. And I will see all the rest of you. Keep watching from a video. Like and subscribe and hit the, the little bell so that it'll let you know when I come on. And by gum, we've got a whole lot more to go. So I will catch up to you just as soon as I can. I love y'all, but I got to go. I'm exhausted from lifting all these books, let alone reading them. Woohoo! Now I get to exhaust myself sharing them. Yeah, I've been saying goodbye now for half an hour. I'm leaving. Bye. I'm not kidding.